All right, let's I think we're actually operational. I am so very sorry. Anyway, everybody, thank you all so much. Welcome to Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the show where movie lovers love to talk about movies as much as they love watching them. And now I'm just going to jump on my little checklist here and get things going. You know what? Let's. We're not even going to tonight. We are chatting. We're going to be chatting about Dolemite Is My Name. The log line here is in 70s LA, struggling comedian Rudy Ray Moore hits it big with his raunchy alter ego Dolomite, then risks it all to take his act to the big screen. And now I'm going to cue the synopsis, and hopefully if you're not hearing me, please say something in the chat if something's not feeding through to you. Like I said, I'm running, I'm a little, this is not working out the way it should, but it's a new piece of software. And so, let me blame the software instead of the operator. And I'm still waiting for my, my co-streamer, Jim. So anyway, in the meantime, here's the synopsis for this wonderful show.
Y'all, you love him and I love him. Put your hands together.
Dolemite is my name.
Dolemite Is My Name opens with Eddie Murphy's washed up and doesn't know it Rudy Ray Moore in a DJ booth trying hard to convince Snoop Dogg's washed up and does know it DJ Raj to play any of his lame sounding singles. In a great exchange, DJ Raj tells Rudy Ray, sometimes their dreams don't come true, to which Rudy Ray replies, they still can. Then we see that the station's DJ booth is in the back of a record store. We find out that Rudy Ray is the record store assistant manager, and we learn the movie's theme. The movie then proceeds to tell us a little more about Rudy Ray as a discouraged singer and comic who supposedly came close but never made it, and is now reduced to no credit emceeing for his musician and comic buddies, including Mike Epps as fellow comic Jimmy Lynch and Craig Robinson as musician Ben Taylor. We also meet record store employee and future record producer Theodore Toney, played by Titus Burgess. Then the film shows us the birth of Rudy Ray's inspiration for his Dolomite alter ego in another great exchange between Rudy Ray and neighborhood drunk/talented street poet Rico, played by Ron Cephas Jones. The rest of the first act is spent showing us Rudy Ray's early success with Dolomite as a stand-up character, his first hit comedy record, and meeting his future Dolomite co-star Lady Reed, played by Davine Joy Randolph. After this origin story, the movie about making the movie Dolomite actually starts.
God damn, Dolomite.
Great God in heaven, you know.
Cut. Was it good as shave?
Was it as good as Shaft? That's a question we're asking here. Again, everyone, let's give you some music here. Again, everyone, thank you all so much for coming. We do have a couple of people in the chat already. Thank goodness. Look at this. Richard, we're here. It takes more than a little dead air to drive us away. Thank goodness. And then apparently Jim is here. My co-host is here. He's waiting for a cue. I have no idea what that means, but let's see if there's something on my end, some sort of settings thing that I haven't done. I did invite him. I don't know. I don't know. I'm giving a Homer Simpson shrug on this one. I'm not 100% sure what I'm supposed to be doing here. Jim, you know what? what I suggest is sign out and sign back in. Let me throw that up on the thing. Give Mr. Cheboyko a little smiley face, and we can show that up on the screen. Anyway, folks, you know what? I think I can. Oh, I do believe. Is this just a second here? Let's now give a warm welcome to the man with the most. My main co-host, Mr. Jim Cheboyko. Hey, Jim.
Jim is my name, and fucking software is my game. That's right.
Oh, that's the best. Awesome.
I don't think I've dropped an F-bomb on here. Yeah, you're right. I did have to I had been connected, but I just had to re-enter, I guess, or something like that.
Well, and you know what? Like I said, this is new software to me. Although I got to admit, I can at least monitor what's going on, and I even have us live on the. Oh, look at this, Richard bringing in a drum roll. Oh, I think I even have that on my mixer. We will have to have a drum roll. We will have that ready for you, Jim, next time. All right.
Sure, yeah.
So, yeah. Jim, what... well, first of all, let's... I've already played the synopsis. We've got the log line out. We do... Richard and Katie are here. You know what? Before we get everyone's first thoughts, let's just make sure everyone knows. Where are we here? Well, where the heck did my... I had a great little thing going on. Well, you know what? You are in the hashtag... What are we thinking?
Spoiler zone.
Spoiler zone. That is correct.
Subscribe,
right.
like, and bell.
Yeah. There we go. Look at that.
There you go.
We've
New
got
software.
something else. Yeah. New software. What was happening those who've been watching know the last few streams I've done, even the one where I recorded it live to tape, the video was terrible. Like StreamYard, their video was awful, and when I was doing the live chat with them, it was all, well, did you try this? Did you try that? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, I tried all those things. And I mean, it sounds like bragging, but yeah, my machine is pretty boss. Like my whole setup's pretty boss. And my internet is cable, guaranteed 300 megabits download. You know, I can get regularly 15 megabits up, which is twice what you need for high definition, like 19 by 20 streams. It was just, and then it was almost, Jim, like they sort of shrugged and said, well, you know, I gotta just keep trying. And I'm like,
shrug emoji.
I'm paying you for this.
Yeah.
So anyway,
exactly.
I finally had to show. But on that whiny note, let's let us. You're absolutely right, Jim. Let's ask for the like. Remind everyone to subscribe. And what's that last one?
Ding a ding a ding ding. Oh, I have a bell here. Damn it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I should mention to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say I should mention to everyone. I'm on vacation at the lake, so that's this isn't a green screen of a cottagey looking bedroom. I'm actually at the lake.
And crappy lighting in the front.
Yes, exactly. There's like one lamp.
Look at Richard. You almost got the shaft, Jim. On point.
Speaking of shaft.
And yes, thank you very much, Richard. It's like I put a lot of effort into the quality of my stream, and the people I'm paying, it's almost like they're like, oh, you know what? Jim will feel bad. We'll have to make Rob's extra crappy. I'm okay with Jim feeling bad, really. Jim might not be. All right, let's. Why
Alrighty.
don't we? I think it's time to get into the meat of the show, eh?
You bet.
All right. Wait. Let me hit this one more time. Come on. And we're officially recording now. Our audio now. Okay. Where are we here? Let me get back to our agenda. Yeah, everyone's gotten the spoiler warning. For those of you already in the chat, feel free to chime in on what you thought of the movie. Jim, yeah, what were your first thoughts?
Well, I like the original version of this movie a little better. It's called Bowfinger, but
There's
I say that jokingly, but there's a lot in common. And I actually went through Eddie Murphy's filmography to see if there was actually a filmmaking trilogy. So where we would have Bowfinger, where we would have Dolomite, and he did another one that I've never seen, where he's a cop with Robert De Niro, and it involves reality TV. And I think they get, from what I could understand, it's called Showtime, and they get basically hired and Hollywoodized. There's a couple of regular cops, but that I mean, if you're thinking of an unofficial Eddie Murphy Hollywood trilogy, I think that's probably where you're going to go with. But I mean, it was we can get a little bit into it. It was a bit whitewashed. I think that's horrible. It was a bit. The spin on it was quite positive, and he actually comes across as unless I'm mistaken, I was eager to hear what you said. He comes across as a very sweet guy, despite the content of his pieces and his movies and routines and things like that. Like, he's very kind to his sort of leading lady and that sort of thing. So, it's a bit spinny, a bit of a spin. I kept on waiting for the sort of the rise and the fall. And I sort of wasn't sure where it was going, but overall, I quite liked it. I thought Eddie Murphy was really watchable, and I think he was doing something a little bit different than he typically does as well. So that's it's just interesting to see. I like those sort of biopics as well.
I think the way I described it, and I don't mean this in a bad way.
There you go.
I don't mean this in a bad way, Jim. I think I described it to myself as it's more hagiographic. Like, it's not a bio. Like, I mean, it's technically the genre's a slice of life, a biopic, a comic biopic. Mm-hmm. But I would actually argue that that's hagiography. And actually, my kind of hot takes, such that it was I thought it was like a blue collar or a working class feudal and stupid gesture.
Yes,
And I was, again, I was totally okay with it. And you know what? I wasn't able to I didn't have the time to do the research and kind of go, okay, was he really that much of a sweetheart? At the same time, his success was later in life. Yeah. By then, he's a guy who actually has learned these are my buddies. Like, he would get upset with them, but it's not like a 20-year-old who all of a sudden hears millions of dollars, and of course they're going to be a jerk and a maniac. Yeah. It was a man who came to success much later in life and a lot more. So I could buy at least some of it, that he was, maybe a bit more appreciative of his friends and that. So I wasn't totally. I was kind of okay with it. What did you think of the? Again, it was. There was like one really explicitly decided. It's like, and a real person, no less. Well, first of all, goddamn Wesley Snipes. Wow. Bugger committed. Like, he delivered in a movie with a ton of great performances. I really think it's like he is the one heel in the whole movie. The one heel, and he commits that whole action. He was just fantastic. Well, at the same time, it's like, that's a real person. Now, according to Wikipedia, he's in the was category versus the is category. but I was like, wow, talk about a very noteworthy moment of, yeah, we're all lovely people supporting and loving each other, including like even the what would have been a really easy thing to do. Even the white record company and film company executives were, you know, dealing with them pretty decently in the film. And I suspect that comes from, you know, like Rudy Ray and others around him are still alive. You know, that these, the Brenari brothers, these 4 Hungarian Jews in his first record deal, where they were like, even when they were lending him money later in the trailer, it looks like they're loan sharks, but really it's all like they're like his 4 white Jewish older brothers going, listen, you're going to F this up. Like, do you really need this money? Like, it's like, you know, they were advocating for him even as they were like, you know, I really thought, even now I'm getting a little misty. Like, it really presses that sympathy. I had a question in there, Jim. I don't know where it went.
Oh, what? Portrayal of like, something, or there was one scene.
Portrayal.
You said that there was one aspect about a living person, maybe.
Oh yeah, well, and actually some of the, like, I mean, I there was only a couple of clunker scenes that I didn't buy, and actually one was with Wesley Snipes, and it wasn't Wesley Snipes. It's Eddie Murphy's delivering that standard line. You know, hey, this is independent film and we're all just helping out, and, you know, if I got to lift a box or sandwiches or whatever, and I'm like, that has been the line in every independent film, and in the independent film scene, I've heard that. I really was. It took me right out of the movie, like for a whole 2-3 minutes where I'm like, I've been on sets where I've heard that.
Yeah.
You know, sorry, close your ears, children. Fucking bullshit. You know, and that was like kind of, I don't want to hear that. You know, fuck off. I heard that a million times, you know?
Yeah.
But then, you know, a little later, it's like, then he's the guy running off, I'm going to go make a real movie. Black Caesar called. And it's like, wow, you're really, what did they put all this negative stuff on him to kind of stand in for that? Now, there really is some elitism if you're on a union show, no matter what level, you know, versus a non-union true, like, you know, the producers are putting up their own money, this kind of hustler stuff. You know, there's some real snob stuff going on there, but, you know, boy, it was like, nope, this guy, he will be the one douchebag in our whole movie. Yeah, not a record executive, not the studio, their distributor.
Well, that's the thing, that there's like you're saying, that there's, instead of a real, like an antagonist or a heavy, there's this one character that, and you know, mostly he gives a little bit of pushback, or he's not fully committed. I mean, that's where his sort of villainy lies. But if anything, there's the one sort of odd scene, he talks a couple times about his stepfather, who evidently had beaten him back in Arkansas. And then there's the one where he finds the family picture where they're all lined up, and the stepfather's sort of to the left, or to the right rather, and he starts addressing the photo itself. And that I think was a little bit of a stand. That's sort of as dark as the movie got, really, was that aspect of it. So, I guess the motivation lies off screen in the case of his,
sorry, Jim,
his
just
family.
Switching up my headphones.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Anyway.
Yeah.
What about...
did you get that?
What did I get? What did I miss?
Sorry, did you hear just my last point? That I just mentioning the stepfather being sort of an off-screen
bad guy, like, or kind of that backstory thing. Yeah. I did catch that, Jim.
Okay.
But I never. I mean, it was nice. Like, I mean, any of those moments that revealed his character, revealed the drive. I think, because I mean, in the in the synopsis, I was being a bit flip, but yeah, right in the very first scene of the movie, we're getting here's the theme. Your dreams can come true.
Yeah.
But one of the other themes I think in this movie was it should be, if you hustle your ass off, because that character was built as just a hustler from the word go, like forever just working his you-know-what off, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought that was that was something key. And so when we're talking about the dad, it also may be another motivator. But I never really, and this is, now we're getting into criticism area. I'm almost looking at it like, give me a sec here. I almost think of it as, I got to look on the screen for what I'm looking for. Oh, right, yeah. Okay, so here's your typical rise, the rising and falling action of your typical three acts, right? Whereas here I was like, it's going to rise, and then there's a moment of, oh, what am I going to do? And then some more rise, and then, oh, what am I going to do? And then more rise, and then, oh, everything's wonderful. Like, there wasn't a lot of, I didn't see a lot of actual, at no time did you just knew it's like, oh, he's been knocked down, but he'll get up. Even when there's he's gonna get up. So what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, in that way, it's a very standard biopic where it takes a look at a specific chunk of time, not too long. Like, it doesn't take him right from boyhood to senior citizenship, but it's that neat biopic that only takes a look at a very specific time, but at the same time, it really
Which
just
I think is the right way to do it.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But it just chronologically takes you from A to B to C, really, and the other thing too is that when the climax of the movie is whether people are going to show up for adulation, purposes, and it's, oh, they love us, that kind of Sally Field line from the Oscars. They're getting out of the limousine and all these things. It's one indicator of success, but it's a kind of a shallow one, right? That people lined up for the movie. There's a bunch of people there. They all love him. The sweet spot is when he decides to go back out instead of watching the movie. But these are all very much like, there's little it's shorthand for success, like a bottle of champagne or something like that. Like it's very kind of a standard way to end, I would think.
Yeah. But I mean, it's about a guy who made a movie that was successful.
Yeah.
You know what? It's like,
how else are you gonna end it?
Yeah. It's. I mean, they gave us an expected ending, but I don't see. Yeah, I agree. I don't see another way. And I did like the fact, because he had his kind of. He saw what he needed to see in the first time he four-walled it, not even knowing he was four-walling, and he he got that kind of, wow, I really do have a success here, and I really did buy the, I'm just going to hang out here, and the way he made a big deal about the kid, it's shallow, but it's about movie making. Movie making is intrinsically shallow. It's not like they're curing a disease. And so I think that was a legitimate thing to do, a legitimate way to look at it. Jim, we have somebody else in the chat. Who might it be? Jelly Duck.
Hey,
Ahmed is in the house.
He is. Good morning. Right. Good morning in the Middle East.
Yeah. Yes, still very early. Anyway, Jelly Duck, good to see you here. So glad you made it. We do have a question, and Richard chimes in. One bit I thought was going to come back and haunt Dolomite, but didn't, was the material he ripped off of the Hobo Earl.
Yes.
You know what? I was kind of. I don't ask you this, Jim. It's a great point to make, Richard. I was blown away. Like, yeah, he really did. He did. He looked. He went and recorded these guys, got them to tell their stories. There maybe wasn't like guys like this Rudy Ray Moore. You know, there's always a bit of storytelling around them, so I took it with a grain of salt. But yeah, the parts where like he went in there and he tape recorded them, and that was a big part of his shtick. He even though, and this blew me away. Where is it? There is a guy, big something or other. I'm gonna find him, Big Brown. Sure. Okay, I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna share this on our screen. Yeah, let me get this up on the screen here. Okay, let's put this. So we've got, I'm going to take us off, Jim. So I think they could have added more of that. But it sounded like he, in this area, he was legit and he really was compositing a character. But yeah, you know what? So it looks more like, I think, Richard, to answer your question, Richard, it looks more like a he really did build the character out of a lot of people he talked to back in the day, it wasn't. It looks like more like he ripped him off in the movie as opposed to in the thing. But and this is another thing I wanted to ask you. I can't remember who. For some reason, I could swear there was a quote of somebody interviewing Eddie Murphy where the interviewer was basically saying, this old Rudy was kind of mediocre. And I thought the movie showed he was a lot smarter than that. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it showed that he had some savvy, and he it's funny because they showed some shots, and I actually didn't get a chance to follow this up, but apparently some of his stuff's on YouTube, like the actual original stuff. So, you know, but the funny thing is here is that Eddie Murphy is playing, you know, Eddie Murphy, the very successful actor, is playing a guy who is successful in his own way, but he was nowhere near the heights that Eddie Murphy achieved. And so Eddie Murphy comes across, he's very lively, his eyes are bright, you know, he's very present. And then they show clips at the end of the movie of Rudy Ray Moore's Dolomite, and he sort of doesn't, you know, he doesn't have the same screen presence, I'd say. So that was kind of it'd be interesting to go and actually watch some of the Dolomite movies. Apparently, there's either 7 or 8 of them. So, yeah, that was kind of an interesting bit. But on the other hand, too, I think Wesley Snipes is playing, who's now in his 50s, was playing a guy who the D'Urville Martin, who died when he was 45. And I think you can sort of see the writing on the wall there. He doesn't look like he's doing very well, and he's possibly addicted to several substances. So that's kind of an interesting position.
Do you think...
Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, just it'll click in eventually. Do you think that, like going back to his success and comparing it to Eddie Murphy, I'm like, Eddie Murphy was really clear in a lot of his interviews. He really did think that this guy, he was truly one of his inspirations, especially, I think, that work ethic and that faith in himself and all that stuff. But I'm wondering, like, yeah, how do they used to say it? Like in the 70s, they were like, oh, they were allowed one famous black person. you know, and, you know, that was it. And here you go. And then also some blaxploitation, because you had all these talented black performers coming up with nowhere to go if they weren't. And I love the way this movie flipped that trope a bit with kind of going, his specialty of being the heel white person in blaxploitation.
Oh yes,
films.
that was good. Yeah,
I've been the warden in this. I was, an evil cop in this one. I was it was a nice shtick. But yeah, how these folks, if they couldn't be in a blaxploitation movie, they're very narrowly cast, and so blaxploitation films allowed them to have these roles. And not allow them to they made these roles themselves, which is really kind of exciting. But I think also I suspect one of the reasons it's so hagiographic and it involves so many of these great comic actors, very much like a Feudal and Stupid Gesture. Yeah. You know, all these great comic actors, all these great black comic actors coming out, playing all these, let's call them trailblazers.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that's a lot of what we're seeing, and that's and again very hagiographic, nowhere near as droll, and you know, there's that kind of like I said before, that sort of Harvard, you know. Yeah, jerking each other off in a Feudal and Stupid Gesture. Also, not because. I mean, this apparently, according to Eddie Murphy, like when he met him a few times and he was saying, "Hey, I want to make a movie about your life," and the guy was like, "I don't want to make a movie. Let's go out on the road." Yeah, you know, it's just kind of awesome and insane at the same time. You know, so
that'd be pretty cool. Just in terms of futile and stupid gesture, Colin Jost has released a book, and he's been on the circuit promoting it, and he's been talking about working for the Lampoon because he went to Harvard, of course, and so yeah, I mean it sort of keys into that. With this movie, with Dolomite, though, I think there's some stuff that it's almost like when you or I or any of us watch an English movie, and there's maybe some issues of class that we maybe miss out on. Is that I think there's a couple of characters where you have the either the fancy or successful black actor or writer, and I think Keegan-Michael Key. So and there's conflict there, right? So there's the the educated guy who's had a little bit of success. So the writer Jerry Jones, played by Keegan-Michael Key, he's a little bit like, I wrote this tender love scene, and now you're and he was horrified by the comedic treatment they gave it. So there's a couple other things, and I'm sure there's stuff.
A working class, it really is a blue collar, a working class thing. But no, you're right. Continue, because that was something I wanted to talk about too. But continue.
I was just going to say. And by the way, Richard, I did have that written down in my notes to talk about the sort of the borrowing of the material. So that was a good point. That I noticed as well. But with this one, I'm sure, and like I say, with a lot of the English stuff that I watch, there's subtleties that we as bearded middle-aged white guys might miss out on. But things like that, and I think there might be little things throughout the script that we don't necessarily pick up on. But some of it, there was tension between, I think, between D'Urville Martin, the successful actor who is the elevator operator in Rosemary's Baby, and then the writer.
We can put air quotes around that success. Yeah. Like there's D'Urville Martin, I think, as a character is easier to understand on a certain level. Like he's had some success in he's just had some success both in big union shows, let's call them. The big A-list show, and in A-list blaxploitation, such that it is. But I think the where we really see that sort of dynamic, and we're going to come back to this, Richard, regarding 5 blocks in every town, because you're absolutely right. That was just a great bit. But where you see more of this, let's say, class tension is when he first goes. It's not as much, I think. Is it Jerry Jones or Terry Jones?
Jerry Jones, yeah.
Jerry Jones. Not as much him as it was the first when he was in the American International Pictures office and briefly there, and how they were kind of first made the great bit about you're a little, we're working with something Williamson and Mario Van Peebles and, or what was his dad's name? Now I can't remember. But it's like, you're a little doughier. Which is a great bit, right? But I think there was you see just as he's describing, hey, we're changing even what we're doing in the genre, and they want to do more. It sounded to me, although the title sounded awful, it did sound to me like they're like, no, we want to make more inspirational, role model-y kind of films.
Oh, was it Cornbread Earl and Me? I think I ended up looking
exactly.
that up.
And it's that kind of. So I think that's more the he's because Dolomite's making a Shaft knockoff. That's what he's doing, right? He's coming. He's not Asylum Pictures knockoff, but close. Yeah. And at the same time, though, that let's say that working class black moviegoers, like, yeah, we want more of that.
Yeah.
Obviously there's just such a huge demand for, genre production. Like, give me kung fu. It's like, what do they say? Like when he sees when they go to Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau on the front page. And he's like, there's no this, there's no that.
I got a quote. Nobody got naked. Was that even a real movie?
Exactly.
That was Craig Robinson that was his line basically. Yeah. But
well, here and just before that, did I get a chance to upload it? Let me see if I can't find it here.
Sure.
You know what? I'm going to upload it. Give me a second here.
Sure, yeah. While you're doing that, the other thing that I'll let you work on that. But when he was discussing the movie initially with Jerry Jones and Keegan-Michael Key sitting on the couch writing down all these notes, and he goes, and then there'll be an exorcism. And he sort of was, there's an exorcism now? And he goes, yeah, we'll have a devil, and he'll fight the devil. And he goes, no devil, no devil. He goes, okay, we'll put the devil in another movie. I thought that was quite a funny little line there, but are you still all right? Sorry, I'm just waiting.
Can you hear me? I think one of the other themes is that hustle, and this is kind of Richard, 5 blocks. Oh, there's 5 blocks that I know in every town, and I'll go to all of them. It was a great bit, and funny, delivered funny, and even because it's I remember doing the synopsis, and even as I was analyzing the movie, just trying to fit it into acts, and it's like, wow, this first act is really more like 45 minutes. The first third of the film almost is really like a superhero origin story. But you're right, first of all, it is kind of, well, this is, you want to capture the origin, you want to capture that setup for this movie, which is so important. You're right, and you do get to have these great scenes. going back to what you like, Jim, that ability for them to breathe, and you get these great scenes that really do show the character, show that hustle. So I think in this film it totally worked. Again, without any real antagonist or any real, like, the struggle was always laughs, but maybe it's almost like that Harold Ramis thing. You can have good filmmaking and great storytelling, but if it's funny, just go with the funny, like, which was what they did in the sex scene.
Yeah.
Sure, it's not tender, it's not this, it doesn't make any sense, but damn, is it funny, like.
Yeah. One of the, I have to say, in terms of letting it breathe, one of the nice breathing scenes is when he first met Lady Reed in the bar, when he, there's a little bit of trouble, and she gets slapped by her husband, and then she gives him a sort of a, not so much an uppercut, but he just gives him a hard right.
Lays him out.
Lays him out, and then he runs away. But, and when they finally sort of, she was a really nice addition to the cast. She had a very calming effect. They didn't have a romantic relationship, but not on screen anyway. And that one when she's sitting at the bar and he sort of talks her down and introduces himself, that was a really nice scene. I could have watched that for about 20 minutes, I think. But it introduces her a little bit, and it's that kind of probably veering into hagiography where he's sort of very kind to her and sort of offers, hey, you should be in stand-up. You could do
totally
this.
do this.
All
Let's do a gig. Let's do a gig in another house.
Yeah. And so that was really, and then the next thing she's neck deep in it, and it was a really nice introduction for the character, and I thought it was a really nice, really nice. Try not to use words like that, but it was a very vital relationship for the rest of the movie, basically,
and sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet,
and supportive,
and everything was sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Even when he lost his cool with his buddies, it's like. Strawberry, your mother effing strawberry shortcake.
Yeah.
I like strawberries.
Your extra greens.
Baby, you pay for your extra greens.
Yeah.
But I thought, it just had a nice, sweet kind of heart to it. I don't know about you, Jim. Well, actually, okay. End of the movie. What were you feeling? The last few scenes. Were you feeling? Yeah, what were you feeling?
Well, I guess I was out.
You folks in the chat, tell us what you're feeling at the end of the movie.
So
Jelly Duck makes something up.
Once it hit about, part of the thing is when you're watching these films not in the movie theater, I'm always fully aware of the time, so I sort of know. Well, there's 15 minutes left. I can't see this. Turning or having some sort of crazy ending or anything like that. I was kind of happy to be along for the ride. A lot of times they'll throw in some trouble just for trouble's sake, and I was sort of glad they didn't take that path.
Yeah.
And
the last minute,
I realized that
to
it was
go
just
back to what
leading
Richard
up to the premiere of the movie.
Yeah. Well, going back to what Richard was saying, here we are. I think if they had thrown that in at the end, just to have some weird legal thing with some poor, homeless drug addict, I think that would have been really crappy. And I think though, but I do think, like, even when, he's recording them all, he's getting them to tell their stories, but before and after, he was, as he was talking to others, it's like, no, they can be turned into jokes. Like, he really did understand.
Yeah.
It's just, you've got to turn it into a story. You've got to turn these stories and these BS anecdotes into actual jokes, like, so it makes sense on stage. He created a character out of these people, like, combined, which I thought was totally a legitimate use. But you're right. Yeah, it would have. I could almost see a note from the studio saying, "Hey, maybe if we bring that in for a little more drama, a little more conflict, and I agree with you. What, I'll ask Richard and Katie before I answer. I'll ask Richard and Katie if they want to share what were they feeling at the end of the movie. What did you? Here's another thing I was kind of wondering about. Well, was there any otherwise scene wise? Like I said, but for me the biggest clunker scene wise was that altogether we're lifting boxes. Was there any other scene where you're kind of going, oh, this is not what? Because there's so many solid scenes in there.
Oh yeah. Sort of the overall tone. I don't think we've spoken too much about. I think the movie did a really good job of creating a sense of activity. So there was the bustling city blocks. There was, and this would have been probably after the Watts riots, less than a decade, I'm guessing. So, it was a very. It showed the Black community as being, in Los Angeles and Indianapolis and a few other places as being, like a vigorous kind of community, and that was kind of nice. So I like the crowd scenes. I think they did well. It brought a lot of energy to the movie. I really like the whole aspect of the Hotel Dunbar, which is the Somerville Hotel, which turns out it's got a huge Wikipedia page, probably 2,000 words. The boxer Jack Johnson had a bar in there. It was like the site of one of the first.
Which we saw some of the black and white pictures in the. Yeah, okay, go on. Yep.
And Jerry Jones was sort of polishing them, and had Armstrong and a few others. But it was and it still stands to this day. I did a little bit of research on that. It's been turned into 80 suites, 40 seniors. Like it's a condo now, basically, or an apartment building, and 40 senior suites and 40 affordable housing suites. So that's kind of a nice little grace note. Still exists. It's number 131 of the Los Angeles. I've got it written down somewhere. Los Angeles landmarks list, and it's a U.S. historical site. It's been designated, but it still exists and still. It still has a purpose and still is a vital part of the community, as opposed to just being a shell of a shell of a place. I found it on Google Street View even, and just gave me another excuse to look at the maps. But it was very cool.
I just wanted to. Jelly Duck commented he thinks Rudy Ray Moore does have the original Dolomite, like the original print, and I think you're right. I think I read that somewhere. Sorry, Jim. I just wanted to note that. And
the only last my last point about the Hotel Dunbar. I just like the sense of everything coming together under that roof. That was kind of neat and fun. And a little note of grace is when they got the electricity going up again, and it lit up all the neon signs and there's a little bit of a segment on that. I thought that was a really, and I don't know if you remember,
sweet little moment where everyone, go on.
And a little bit of an echo is that if you remember, Do the Right Thing. There was one of the characters was delivering some sort of monologue, and the camera was from a low angle, and there was a street light in behind him, and it was sort of at dusk. And as he's delivering his monologue, the light turns on. So I'm not saying it's a throwback to that, but it sort of had that same feeling, like a little note of grace right in the middle of this movie. And
do you? I'm going to bring up Richard's comment, and then I'm going to then I'll give you an idea of how I Sure. But Richard saying ending was a feel good for them. Yeah. They felt to fit well with the movie. Not sure how much you could add. The only thing for me, what I liked, Jim, and Richard and Ahmed and Katie, what I did, I got really kind of into it. Something that this movie did very well is get you invested in these characters. Even the quote heel, Wesley Snipes, he does have a great moment. And again, Wesley Snipes should just be like, wow, you did an awesome job. You deserve every accolade you did. But there's that, and he's being a shit. He's also being incredibly pretentious and inappropriately so. Like the person who's, it's the I love caviar, as they're using a knife and fork or something, the caviar sandwiches or whatever. But as well, he's also at times he's actually being kind of decent. The moment where it was like as good as Shaft, right? It's like it was something. But the moment where he got Rudy Ray, the Rudy Ray character, Eddie Murphy, when he goes, use it, choose it, juice it. I'm not even 100% sure what, like it was almost like he's using 3 words. Are they on purpose? Is it part of his pretentious act? But at the same time, he was like, hey, you know what? Eddie Murphy's character, Rudy Ray's, I don't want to deal with your BS. Because for those, most of you saw it, but for those who hadn't, Wesley Snipes' character caught the end of the conversation where Rudy Ray's begging his investors, his lenders, for a bit more money to finish the movie. And so Wesley Snipes comes up to Eddie afterwards and says, I caught that, I saw that. And you can tell Eddie Murphy's like, I don't want to hear any of your bullshit. We're just trying to make he's done, eh? He's so done. And actually what Wesley, D'Urville, right?
D'Urville Martin,
Thank you. D'Urville, what he's actually is like, no, use that feeling. You are like John Cassavetes. Like he does a name drop, but actually an on-point name drop. It's like, okay, you're not a complete, so he name drops John Cassavetes, like the OG of this era indie filmmaker, and says, use that, use it. And we get a great, awesome scene at the very end. And then at the end, Wesley does the other half of his character being a total dick, shitting on everyone. You all suck. See you, losers. I'm out. I really like that. And every character I got invested in. This movie did a great job. And so going back to, I got honestly choked up. I was so with them by then. Sure, they did the thing with the kid, but I was buying it all. And I was like, wow, for a movie with really no conflict, no real conflict. And even some of the stuff that would seem lame in any other movie, like when Bob Odenkirk as the Dimension Pictures, not Wormley, all these real people, and he does that little bit of history about, hey, this is, we've got 2 things. We sell movies to hillbillies, we sell movies to urban black populations. That's our sweet spot. That's our shtick. Rednecks, black people, blaxploitation, and redneck hillbilly cinema. For one, it's in drive-ins in the southern U.S. For the others, it's in these resplendent. But he gives a little history of white flight and kind of captures it really in a fun little scene already. A little bit of a history lesson for those who aren't familiar of why this Dolomite thing did work, why he had those 5 square blocks in every city, and why there are these great big movie houses that the community could go to, and you got these big crowds, which is, I think, part of the reason it became even more successful, because great media pictures of a lot of people seeing the movie. Must be good. Look at all these people going.
And those are dense blocks too. Those aren't like 5 blocks in Southdale or where you might maybe have 20 people living. Those are like middle of the city where you have apartment blocks with thousands of people in them, right? So
exactly, big American big city blocks.
I was going to say another character that was sort of not major, but I thought was noteworthy was they had a sort of a Lucas Haas lookalike character who was the director of photography on the movie. He was a UCLA student, and his name was Nick, and that was played by Cody Smit-McPhee. I don't know if he was the kid in The Road with Viggo Mortensen and
Australia.
Australian. He was like the voice in Paranorman. He was like he's actually had.
Was he?
Probably 20, and he's yeah, apparently, and he was in a couple other movies that I had forgotten about. But he plays his character's name Nick. That character's full name was Nick Joseph von Sternberg.
Yeah,
he was the son of Joseph von Sternberg, who made Marlene Dietrich movies in the 30s in Germany. I just thought, what? And I can't even remember where I saw that now.
He's had a huge career, but all in B, and like he was a lame horror and sci-fi into the 80s and 90s, and then every now and then he's a camera operator, and hey, I saw that movie, and another guy who like this is. It's almost like he found his calling, or who knows, maybe that's why he was. I'll never be, or I don't want to be on big studio productions, or who knows. That was super cool. What about, okay, there are two things I wanted to, and I think let me put this up.
Sure.
So there's that moment where let's say the second movie kicks off. We had one short, and then we have a European long feature-length film. But they're in the theater. He's kind of he's now a successful stand-up comic, selling his albums. He's got some money. But we end up in that they're in a theater, him and his buddies. They're seeing the front page, Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon, very much a mid-70s, early 70s kind of a white bread kind of film. You know what? It's one of those things, people have heard of it, but it's not on any top 10 lists or anything. No one's going, wow, the front page. They go see it. There's a moment, and here's the still I grabbed, Jim. Let me put that up one more time. So Eddie Murphy turns back. He's looking up. What he's actually looking up at is he's looking up at the projector light in the back of house. But I honestly thought there's a part of me. It's like I mean, he's because we've got that point of view. I feel like he's looking at me going, You don't really think this is a good movie, do you? Like I felt it was almost like a fourth wall breaking moment.
Yeah.
It's like, am I being? I'll be crass now, but we're talking Eddie Murphy and this Rudy Ray Moore. Am I being fucked with? Are we who's fucking with me right now? Because this is terrible. You've got to be kidding.
Let me just bring up Trading Places, and one of the funniest things. That might be worth watching.
Yes.
Actually.
Does it hold up? But go ahead.
Yeah. One of the funniest scenes, and it still makes me laugh. It's like one of those commercials that makes you laugh every time you see it, and it is a breaking. It's the only breaking of the fourth wall, and they're explaining to his character, Billy Valentine. Is that what it is? Anyway, they're explaining to his character, who's a poor guy, but he's got a knack for something, and so
I can almost do this by memory. But continue.
Future markets to him, and they're explaining orange futures, oranges, this, that, and bacon, lettuce, and tomato. So
pork bellies.
Pork bellies.
Yeah.
And from that you get bacon, as you might find in a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. And he looks right at the audience. He breaks the fourth wall.
It's such a brilliant kind of. Yeah.
And it's the only time they do that in the whole movie. They just, it's not like a
oranges. It can be in concentrated orange juice. Yeah. For your breakfast, because they got the whole meal in front of them as they're using it, as they're trying to dumb down this.
You might find it a bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwich. You just looks at the camera. It's Ralph Bellamy and Don Amici who are, I think, giving the lesson. And Anyway,
in a great in a killer into killer roles that they
Oh, yeah.
totally owned. Like
Yeah.
totally nothing better than seeing actors commit, you know?
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
like in this movie, that everybody committed, you know? I thought they were great performances. What I want to go back because I'm curious. Did you? Well, first of all, do you even agree with me on what the theme is? I'd be like, you know, I really did. You know, I thought it was pretty kind of on the nose. Believe in your dreams, and they will come true.
I think so. There might be a you know, for us, you know, people of not of color, there might be a little more subtle of a, you know, especially when they went to see the front page. They're not telling our story, you know, even if it's a ridiculous story. I think there's a little bit of that. There's nobody on screen for us right now. And I think that was sort of woven into it a little bit. And you still hear that today. Oh, and she even says to him at the end.
Overt.
Yes. She actually says to him at the end, thanks for putting me on the screen. I've never seen anybody like, which might
looks
be a
like
little,
me.
Yeah, now I don't know if they would have thought in those terms. I may be wrong back then, but it's something that I've heard a lot, you know, in the 21st century. Yeah,
I have no like, and that's what made that work. I think in that scene, that's a great example. But Jim, I would even say that's what made it work. Is she wasn't being capital P political.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
she was saying something that even now is hard for, like, I mean, there's people like watching beautiful anything, right? And so it is, even now it's difficult. I have no problem believing the woman, Lady Reed, you know, if it maybe even said it later. It's like, I'm a big woman, and people don't put big women on, you know, the only one who'd be doing it later is John Waters.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, so I had no problem seeing that. And even although there was that great bit, again, back in that theater, just shush me, Sandy Duncan. I was like, I can't even remember that. That's right. She does look like Sandy Duncan. But it was interesting the way they kind of drew that. Like, it definitely showed, I mean, you know, it was the 70s. I mean, the Black Panthers hadn't been crushed yet. You know, there was still a lot of, like, a lot of dynamic politics going on at that time. Yeah. And, well, as opposed to the 80s or any other area, but there's a lot of dynamic politics, a lot of it, and they kind of touched on that in the whether it be the corporate progressivism of the, hey, we're doing what, Cornbread Earl and me?
Yeah.
Which is like, oh God.
I think it's Cornbread, Earl, and because there was one character with a nickname. And actually, that turns out to be, from the synopsis that I read, it wasn't just about a kid succeeding. It was about police brutality and how it affected three friends. Yeah. So I haven't seen the movie.
Maybe it's more subversive than I thought. But
yeah,
you know, but I thought there's the aspirational, and then you've got Jerry Jones. He's like, you know, a lot more in the community. I put him like in a spectrum. It'd be like, okay, here's that kind of corporate liberal. And it's a company, right? Saying, "Oh, we're moving towards this kind of picture," like a lot of these production companies that make good money on. They kind of found their niche and they do really well, and then all of a sudden they're like, but everybody wants an Oscar, and they're like, maybe we could have an Oscar. We'd have our asses KIS. We'd have our asses kissed in whatever the Spago of the time was. And I think they did introduce the audience to it without being really, like, I mean, they're showing one aspect of a dynamic political world.
Yes.
You know, within the Black community, and again, the Black community, which is also was great because it was like, I mean, white people were involved, but never were running the scene. That's it. Yeah, they certainly, it's like, oh, I had to go to 4 white guys to get money, and then later on it's, oh, do you want to get distributed properly? Well, meet me and my other white friends, but at the same time, they weren't driving the bus. They were gatekeepers, but not, I have to convince them. No, I do. I got to admit, the more I think about it, the more I talk about it, the happier I am, and it addresses certain things for me that I felt were lacking in a futile and stupid gesture, which, kind of had an elitist tone. Yeah. That now, mind you, again, Bechdel test, like the lowest of the low bars, as far as gender.
NA.
Not applicable. No. And what was fascinating? Oh, Jim, you were going to say something?
Yeah. No, I had that in my notes. Yeah.
Yeah. What was fascinating, like, as now and as I'm thinking about growing this, and we'll talk more about it later, but it also didn't hit that reframe thing, where some of the old guard was a reframe prize winner. They had a lot of women in above the line positions, department head, and high, like, management, senior crew member positions, and they really hit that. I'm just throwing this up to make sure we don't forget.
Yeah.
But where was I going with that? Oh, yeah, the reframe thing. Didn't pass that either. And also, because I would say this is an Eddie Murphy movie, like, full stop.
Oh, yeah.
It's an Eddie Murphy production. So, meanwhile, at the same time, it sounds like these writers had wanted to make this movie too. 2 white guys from University of Southern California, like, I mean, kind of the rich, lazy children's Ivy League, but these guys, were roommates back. Like, I mean, they're a few older than we are, Jim. They wanted to make this movie, and the director is another white guy. And
I had to Google him to find out. I was like, what, is this a white guy or a black guy? He's actually directing Coming to America too, interestingly.
Yeah, well, obviously, him and Eddie, they click. But he also wrote or directed. Didn't he direct Hustle and Flow?
Yes.
That was John Singleton executive produced it. Like, I mean, it's like this is weird in a way. Like, not weird in the best way. I'm not. It's and it doesn't feel. What's interesting now, what I would be worried about with, basically 3 white guys telling a black man's story from the 70s, it's like, oh, is this going to be way off base or woke? But there's just too many. Eddie Murphy he really is not just an executive producer in name, but he's like, what's that guy? Top Gun. Help me out.
Like a showrunner type of.
No, Top Gun. Top Gun the movie.
Oh, the actual
Star.
Okay. Oh, Tom Cruise.
Yes,
sorry.
Eddie Murphy's like Tom Cruise. He drives his own filmmaking bus.
I think so.
It's so with that in mind. Now, Richard says, commented in the chat, funny scene was the guys being entirely puzzled at. Yeah, the front page. You're absolutely right. It's one of the best scenes on a number of levels. It is that triggering moment that moves us into the second. Like, it's a key scene. But hilarious. And again, like, I'm just going to pull up that picture again. There he is. Eddie just staring at us going, wait a sec, no one really likes us, do they?
Yeah. He looks pretty awesome with that hairline too, I have to say. And I suspect he might have gained some weight for the role. Yeah. Because you could actually see a belly, and he talked about, but without any kind of real sense of vanity.
Thank you very much, Jelly Duck.
Jim
was just kind of letting me hang there for a while.
Sorry. But I've got sunstroke. That's my excuse. No, he was actually doing something I think a little different, even in just being a kinder character. I hadn't really seen him do anything like that before, and it felt different, and it was neat to see. He was definitely not hitting his old notes or doing the same old thing that he's always done, and
you didn't once hear that laugh. I really thought for sure that would be in there. Like I've gotten into the habit of writing down my expectations before I watch the movie, and and I didn't mean it in a bad way or anything, but I'm like, wow, it's Eddie Murphy. There'll be that laugh, and not once. And I agree with you. You did a great job. Again, though, like a real love for the subject matter, the character and the man. Yeah, what a sweetheart movie. What? Yeah. Let me ask you this, Jim. I'm just trying to find my comment here in my notes. There was he's again back to his motivation, and I don't think, and maybe this is more of a subtext thing. One of his drives is to be somebody, to matter, to be known. And it was kind of what your thinking was on. Oh, excuse me, terrible belch. I'm kind of wondering what your thinking was on that.
I mean, it's sort of a motivation that's often cited. I mean, I don't think it was vanity. It was, because or maybe it was. I get the sense that he talked
certainly
when he talked
not
about
the way
his past,
they presented it.
Yeah, I mean, when he talked about his past, he said, "Well, Arkansas, I don't have too many good feelings about that place." And then he talked about his family a little bit, but the only family member that we associated with him through this movie was his aunt. Like that's he said, "Oh, my family." And I was thinking, I was wondering if that was sort of a time-cutting, cost-cutting thing. You don't want so many characters. But it appeared that the only family that he was really connected with was the one aunt, and he would go visit her and hit her up for money, and then subsequently give her money, and that kind of thing. So
which is a real economic thing in poor, like on the edge communities. You know what? Where there's Sorry, go on, continue.
No, I was just going to say maybe this is a guy who picked up and moved to LA and had obviously, his social circle. He had some very close friends, one aunt, and that was it. And maybe, he's getting toward a couple of times earlier on. I think he's talking to Snoop Dogg, actually, who's the DJ. And he says, our time has passed, as we made the wrong choices. I'm paraphrasing badly, but that was kind of an interesting one as well. And I think that goes more, instead of just fame for fame's sake, into a sense of immortality, I guess, in some way. Back when I was in my 20s, I'd go to art galleries and they'd say, well, these artists, they create something, they live forever. That must have been part of the reason why they create art. And I was always like, what are you talking about? I'm in my 20s. I don't worry about this stuff. Now it's a little bit of a different, exactly. It's a little bit of a different story. And so this is a guy who, and I did a little bit of math.
40s.
He's in his 40s, and he's maybe thinking, it's maybe a midlife crisis thing. But I think there's several things that are motivating him at that point. Not just the fame for fame's sake, but he's got other things going on as well. In addition, showing up the stepfather, making some sort of splash, being able to affect people, and not having the sense of your time's past. So I think that's sort of where he was.
I'm going to quickly ask Jelly Duck a quick question here. When you say he was in the Arsenio Hall show, he was on the Arsenio. Are you talking about Rudy Ray Moore, Ahmed? Let us know in the chat. I'm kind of curious about that. Well, in Arsenio Hall, another one who's got a great deep history. like of the same. Well, we'll wait for Jelly Jack to comment.
Yeah.
What? One more thing before we kind of, we're near the wrap up point. But
Sure.
did you? Any of these? I always kind of. It's interesting. The stated, really, again, back to theme. The stated theme. Believe in your dreams. And even in interviews, Eddie Murphy, just believe in yourself, which I always kind of like, sort of, there's a bit of an eye roll there. Well, at the same time, a little positive self-delusion is a psychologically well-researched, well-established predictor of success. You don't want to be too realistic, or you'll never do anything, because chances are rarely in your favor. Jelly Duck has chimed in on that. So Rudy Ray Moore was on the Arsenio Hall show. Here's a thing, actually, and it'd be interesting what people think. If Jim and I, it's tough though. It's still I'm doing this. Half the reason is because of COVID-19 and everything. I'm doing it to keep my sanity right now. But even then, to be any more polished than we already are. We do keep improving, but is it something where if we did a bit more research, we delayed a little for a bit, we could have a lot of this stuff up. I'm wondering if that would really add value. Or maybe it's actually, I don't know why I'm even saying this. We have a wonderful audience, our handful of peeps that can only grow because they're wonderful people and they're here, which means more wonderful people will eventually find us, Jim. Maybe that's it. We encourage people to, email in with stuff that they know beforehand, so we make sure we talk about it, There we go. Anyway, enough of my rambling on.
An intern program that we could siphon into somehow with the COVID thing. I don't know, just throwing it out there.
Well, there should be, you know what, Jim? There should be somebody making money off of this. I mean, it's not you and I, but maybe some part-time intern that gets an honorarium through a Winnipeg Foundation grant or something.
I think that was Tom Cruise you're talking about, Mr. K.
Then a producer. You're our intern / producer.
So as a quick little thing, I sort of wanted to. I mentioned Bowfinger originally, which in my mind is super underrated. It's one of my favorite both Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy movies, and it's a good movie. It's sweet, but it's also got a little bit of a spikiness to it. I saw it in the theater back in the summer of whenever it came out, 97 or something like that. And it still holds, from when I've seen it, it's still held up. There's a couple times where
we'll definitely be putting that on our does it hold up list.
I just think it's great, but it's that same sort of that diluted creative guy, Steve Martin in that, or Eddie Murphy in this, with a sort of a motley crew. I think I've used that phrase before already tonight, but that sort of motley, lovable crew that are striving to, put together this movie. In that case, it's called Chubby Rain is the actual movie in Bowfinger. And it's just, so there's a lot of similarities. Almost the main character
would you
himself.
Say they're making a blaxploitation film. You know what? I'm never mind. I'm taking that question back, because we're going to have to do in one of our does it hold up?
Yeah.
And who knows? We might come and go, oh, that was a terrible, terrible idea. I don't think so. Genius is involved, but
Frank
maybe
Oz
we can
directed,
make some of these comparisons. Sorry.
Sorry, you cut out there.
Continue.
I was just going to say, the diluted main character with, kind of there's a sweetness about it. There's the motley crew of like that. And as we often talk about that sort of chosen family, or that accidental family, maybe I'm sort of not sure which one that would be, but everyone's sort of coming together to put this project together to tell a story, and all share in the glory of that, and I think there's a lot of similarity there, and I think they both end in the movie being actually screened. I think that's the sort of the natural climax of both movies. So, there's a lot of sort of tonal similarities and character similarities as well. It is. I see Richard responding there. Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. So that
I want to say it came out, and then shortly after, or maybe it was right when I got into when I was like, maybe I could be in movies, and I got into the local film industry. And I think that's right around, either it just came out before, or maybe right when I was starting to take classes, and maybe I really could turn it into a job. Which led to an amazing change in my life. For 20 years later, I can still go, wow, I'm so glad I did that. And Bowfinger reminded me, I attach Bowfinger, and which is why I thought I had, and maybe one of the reasons I look at this film so positively, whereas there's a little bit, as much as I enjoyed A Futile and Stupid Gesture, there's a bit of an eye roll in there for me, but yeah, this I really, I think I have that soft spot for it. For those in the later podcast, for those Richard commented, agreed. Bowfinger is so great, and then. Now we got one more thing, and actually, Jim, why don't you? I'm going to throw this up for you to answer while I tee up our our next couple of items as we start to wrap up here.
Sure.
Okay. So Jelly Duck is asking about blaxploitation, so maybe you could give a bit of a just a highlight of it.
Well, from what I understand, it was movies that, and they describe it a little bit in this movie. It was movies marketed to a black audience with almost entirely black actors. I haven't watched a lot of blaxploitation movies, but there was a joke in, I think, The Simpsons that said, "Oh, we've got all kinds of movies that we've released: Blackula, Blackenstein, and the Blunch Black of Bloater Blame." It's a little bit of an odd joke, but basically
Didn't Shaft go to Africa? Wasn't that a reference in this movie? I wanted to see Shaft in Africa.
Yeah, but basically there were, and if you have Turner Classic Movies TCM on your dial, on your TV package, they've actually shown Shaft a couple times in the last couple of years, and I've watched bits of it here and there. But basically, it's black hero, made for black audiences, often overcoming, white antagonists, or some sort of bad white cop, or that kind of thing. I think Shaft at one point bribes a bartender and then becomes a bartender himself to get closer to a couple suspects. And yeah, it's anyway. But yeah, basically, you would have that, and they would be for the people. They wouldn't be making fun of them or anything, but it would be for a black audience. And usually a little bit, there's a quickiness about it. They're almost like a drive-in type of movie, early 70s kind of. Not a high budget, maybe done in a hurry over a summer or something like that. With a fairly limited schedule, and you have to crank these things out in 3 months or whatever. But as far as I know, I wouldn't mind watching a few more of them myself, just for fun. But
another one you may want to just chime in there, Jelly Duck, is there was his. So it's you know what? I got to look this up because it'll kill me otherwise. Okay, original movie. All right, so the frick, pardon my poor language. Of course, what comes up, you say Shaft movie, it's the lame 2019 version, which is, but it will click onto the original.
Disambiguation or whatever.
Of course not. No, it won't. It's here's a whole series of other BS. It's just like,
oh my
we're
gosh,
crying out loud. Oh, 4 clicks later. Okay, so Jelly Duck. Well, let's put. I'm gonna put this on the screen here, and Jim and I'll take Jim off briefly so we can take a quick look. So Jelly Duck, if you look up Shaft, all right, which was starring Richard Roundtree, and what was the other one? Sweet Sweetback's badass song. Okay, so Sweet Sweetbacks at Melvin Van Peebles. This is another original in the another great blaxploitation film written and directed by the and starring Melvin Van Peebles. Now you may recognize that name. But it's really his son, Mario Van Peebles, who actually did. So they got Melvin here, and then his kid Mario. Okay, let's get Mario. So here's Mario, another great filmmaker. He made an actual great, which would really give you a good capture of that whole scene. Where is it now, my friend? Pardon me. Sorry. Okay, it was, okay. It was called, okay, so if you want to get the history of blaxploitation in a film, or at least one part of it, see, well, you know what? let me see if I can't blow this up a little. There we go. Badass. By Mario Van Peebles, which is actually his, because he was actually his dad. His dad had no problem with child labor. Everyone's got to pick up a box or something. He put Mario in his film, and so it kind of captures that history and how much, there's some family. You're not going to get the hagiography you get with Dolemite Is My Name. Here, there's a bit of real human pain and unresolved issues. Yeah. But anyway, still worth watching. Anyway, so that's there's my addition to Jim's great capture of blaxploitation.
Yeah, and I know there was like an offshoot with those Blackula and stuff. There was a horror aspect to it, and there was the Superfly, I think, was another one which they've tried to recreate, but it actually didn't look very good. It was just in the last couple of years.
Oh, it's all god awful.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do before we wrap, it's got to wrap it up for a number of technical reasons. I'm just kind of amazed that nothing's died here on our thing. But I did, before Jim and I wrap this, get our final thoughts out, tell you what we're looking at next week. I did want to take a brief moment to pimp, as they say. It might be, I don't know, is it pimping it out bad use given what we just saw, or an appropriate use? But here we go. As you folks know, I did a recent interview, a rather long, wide, rollicking interview with Kyle Wong, a great local, like here in Winnipeg, short film director. And it was such a big interview. I actually had to do it in 2 parts. The next part will be coming out this week. And I'm just want to let you all know that, it gets even deeper and even better, bigger tangents. The one thing I do, much like I warned you in the last one, my visuals were terrible. Like mine, Kyle was fine, but mine are awful. So maybe you start it and then you just listen to it as you do, I don't know, dishes or whatever. We just had a few technical issues there, which is why I changed the streaming software, et cetera, et cetera. But I also want to take this moment to thank again Kyle, who's super generous with his time. We went on for like literally hours. We did end up cutting it a bit, just for time's sake, and but it was. I really do. Again, Kyle, if you're watching now, thank you so very much for doing that interview with me, and for all you folks. Yeah, the next part will be coming out, so I wanted to get that out. And then I guess, one more before Jim and I move to the next step. Let's once again ask for the like.
Subscribe.
Don't forget to subscribe. And then what's the last one?
Ding a ding a ding a ding a ding.
That's right. Ring the bell so you don't miss out. Also, if there's anything they want to say now about the quality of the stream or anything, feel free to chime in or comment in the afterwards on if anything was or wasn't working. Because Jim and I are working hard to deliver as best a product as we can, and so you guys, any of your help on that would be greatly appreciated. I think that's it. Jim, what final thoughts?
I don't want anybody to mistake. I thought this is a good watch, a good movie, a nice introduction to maybe somebody that I didn't know so well, and it was a chance to see Eddie Murphy in a different light. And I thought it was a fun show. There's a few things we haven't mentioned yet. Good supporting cast, but
amazing supporting cast.
Well, Titus Burgess from Kimmy Schmidt and Craig Robinson, who's been on all kinds. A lot of TV actors, actually, or a lot of streaming actors, I guess, if you want to make that distinction. But, it's just really neat. I love history, even if it's recent. So, it was pretty cool. But it sort of makes me a little bit more curious about Rudy Ray Moore himself. So I might go back. Apparently, some of his stuff's on YouTube. So, but good movie.
Yeah, no, you're right. And you know what's interesting? I mean, for a couple of white Canadians, it's still a little more, it's a nice kind of view into world that we're not familiar with. But I also like the fact that it was showing, like, one of the things that I think, and you know what, we could, I suspect we can say the exact same thing about the lived Indigenous experience in Canada. There is, and Joe Biden stepped in it when he was basically saying, there's not a lot of diversity in black culture. The Latinos have diversity. There's only with a couple of noteworthy successions. What a ridiculous thing to say. But what I loved about this film is it showed a black working class and a black middle class. This is not it's not like that it doesn't exist. It does exist, that there is this it was showing a variation and in one piece of it, whereas usually what we see in American mainstream film is the hood or really just some theme or a reaction to that, which is why Tyler Perry makes so much money, because he's actually showing just a black middle class experience, I echo your thoughts. You're absolutely right. The cast was amazing. All the production values, the music, the soundtrack. Like, I would say this is pretty much a bang-on film. So I think we'd both agree, definitely worth people's time,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it was nominated for a bunch of, if you use that as your standard, it was nominated for a bunch of awards, so that's usually a good indicator. Not always, but it's usually a good indicator.
Yeah, I think it, it's a predictor. Maybe not a one-to-one correlation, but a solid predictor. You can't. If there's a ton of awards in it, it would be noteworthy if it was awful.
Yes, yeah.
That's not impossible to happen, but anyone else in the chat who maybe, we do. We got, Jelly Duck. Shaft is such a good movie. Curious on which version you're talking about. And he also said, thank you very, very much, Jelly Duck. You have a great day in Kuwait, and I hope it's not too hot, or you're able to stay indoors with top quality AC. All right. Last but certainly not least. Okay, Jim, I think it's time. What are we watching next week? What do we got to get people to watch for next week?
We're watching Spike Lee's Five Bloods.
You're absolutely right. And as soon as I find where the heck's you know what? I think I've just learned something about this whole deal, Jim. This is kind of fascinating. I think actually, because I know I uploaded it, but I think you're limited to how many things you can upload.
Ooh.
Oh, no, never mind. I didn't upload it. But here you go. That's right, everybody. Next week.
There we go.
There's the big thumbnail.
That's a great poster.
It is, and Jim, there were a number of, here, let me, that's a great poster. Let me get it off. There was a number, like a few really solid choices out there, and I was really kind of, it's like, which one? They're all so good. Maybe, you know what? Maybe we'll put them up. We can even talk about them next week, as we're talking about the movie. Sure. So that's right, everybody. 9:30 p.m., Monday, 9:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, Universal Time Code offset -5. August 17th. Yes, August 17th. Yep. We'll be looking at the Five Bloods, and I think I'm going to take the music down, and I think it's time to cue the outro. Jim, stick around.